Now, another role that is fast changing in modern, not just modern organizations, but organizations that are modernizing, is also the role of the product owner and the business or system analyst. So some companies are merging this role and just having what they call an engineering lead. So the engineering lead handles both the product owner role and the business or the system analyst role. Now, so the product, we all know that the PO owns the product backlog items and prioritizes them. What needs to be built incrementally. That is his key role in the, and of course, because he owns the product backlog and backlog items, prioritizes them, what needs to be built. He is the one that accepts those stories as meeting the acceptance criteria, of course. So now that role is being merged in some of the organizations. So you see, usually what the system analyst, he or she will gather requirements, analyzes the scope relative to the software, hardware, and also how the system will fulfill the business needs. That's what it does. So now the engineering lead is taking upon all those roles. Now, but one thing we want to note in that what I discovered with those organizations is that when the delivery lead is merging of those roles, when it's happening, there is some, or they are basically actually synchronizing what the product manager does, because he showed us some of those roles at the program level. Then the engineering lead, the agile delivery lead, and the product manager, you can call the agile delivery lead, or you can call it Scrum Master, but the agile delivery lead does a lot more roles than what the traditional Scrum Master does. So the engineering lead, agile delivery lead, and the product manager, they work closely and cohesively on initiatives and epics for effective delivery. So when they meet in those meetings, that's how they are looking at those items and working them, because if you are probably implementing the SAFE framework, you have all the PI planning meetings, where after the capabilities, or some companies will call capabilities, some prefer to call initiatives, and then they come down to epics. All those meetings where they are prioritizing and aligning work that needs to be done in the PR. So how about cross-functional and self-organizing teams? I brought this one because I've worked in organizations where the developers role, you create stories, you write stories for developers and write stories for the QA. And I work for an organization that does not distinguish between those two roles. And so I discovered that actually separating the developer from the QA defeats the purpose of cross-functionality. Cross-functional means that each of these teams, each of the members in this team can take upon any of the scope. That is what's cross-functional. That's the whole idea of cross-functionality. So dividing those two roles defeats that purpose. Now, when you mesh the two and simply implement peer reviews, so that now peer reviewing is very important, and therefore there's no need to separate them. And then you focus on individual success. Then the one question that I want to also find out now, because and see how other people, I remember I'm thinking that we'll have a good conversation at the end of this presentation on some of these ideas like this one. So do you focus on individual success or team success? This is important because the way I'm leading the team is I focus more on the team success. unlike individual success. So when I match my team capacity and velocity and plan the PI and sprint goals as a team, what the idea here is that when you do your estimation and allocate effort points, but it doesn't, once you get your capacity, it doesn't have to, you don't have to have team members have equal number of those effort points, even if they have the capacity for all of those members is the same. Because the complexity of the scope isn't the same. And therefore you want to run a team in such a, lead a team in such a way that a team member can always step in and help out when they have bandwidth left. So that is what I mean by going in for team success, unlike individual success. So you ensure that once you ensure your team alignment, synchronicity, cohesiveness, and collaboration, you can just win. You can just win that part and then win it. So you list all the acceptance criteria with the check of brackets instead of subtasks. So my experience, leading teams where we create subtasks and leading teams where we just make sure that all the acceptance criteria have been identified and then entered and under the story, under the acceptance criteria itself with brackets. So that each time that they finish with one of those components, you just check off that particular criteria. And that makes your daily stand up smoother. And it makes you are able to evaluate how much work is left undone and how much is left to be done easily, rather than creating subtasks. You can, and in this one, if you want to also create subtasks, you can still have this check of brackets for acceptance criteria and also create a subtask. But to me, I wouldn't, if once I have those acceptance criteria all bracketed, and I don't need to create any subtask, because your subtasks do not reflect on your metrics. It's the stories that do. So additional, instead of the last point here, you can always have an additional assignee instead of creating a separate story for a peer review, an internal demo to the entire team prior to the PO acceptance.